Start composing detailed sketches with Soundiron's core micro sample library. This is a massive collection of sounds specifically designed for composers to have a huge variety of instruments at your fingertips. Keep in mind that core micro isn't meant to give you everything from each library. Instead, it's more like a huge toolbox to get you sketching out compositions quickly and efficiently. So if you do want to check out this library at the time of recording, it's on sale at a special launch price. But you can also save an additional 5% off your entire Soundiron purchase with my discount code RRMusic. So I left a link for that in the description down below. And I just want to thank Soundiron for sending over a copy of Core Micro just so I can review and discuss it with you all today. Now, with all of that said, let's take a look at this library. So for everything that's packed into this library, Core Micro's interface is very straightforward, very simple, which is going to be perfect for workflow and perfect for efficiency and perfect for your writing. All of your libraries and articulations are called upon within this one Core Micro NKI. By default, we start off with these strings, but over on the bottom right, we have one drop-down menu, which lets us pick the kind of sound that we want. So we have orchestral, vocals, keys, solo instruments, and percussion. And then the other drop-down menu lets us pick which library we want that falls under that category. Now, what's really cool about this interface is that it's really divided into two major sections. You have your layers 1 and 2, and then your ambisynth 1 and 2. The two layers actually share the same libraries and instruments, allowing you to balance them together. So if layer 1 was set to the strings and then layer 2 is set to the choir, you'll then hear both at the same time. You can even set one layer to A. So we'll say this is A, and then layer 2 to B. And then let me assign this to my mod wheel. And now you can crossfade between the two so that you can choose how much of a balance you actually want. So A is just the strings. And B is just choir. And this is, of course, something that you can do with the ambisynth as well, but we're actually going to have a different set of sounds. These are all synth-based, so we'll have more sound design, sub-synths, and everything. And ambisynth 1 and 2 are going to be the same way that layers 1 and 2 share the same instruments. Then each layer in ambisynth is going to have its own set of controls indicated by its own individual color. So layer 1 is going to be purple, layer 2 is going to be green, ambisynth 1 blue, and then ambisynth 2 yellow. You can also mute or unmute each layer, but then also link them together so that what you do to one set of controls, you do to the other. And then if we go to the little gear icon at the top, we get access to 3 different kinds of effects. We have our LFO on the left, the center has the filter, and then on the right, we have our arpeggiator. And then just as a side note, you could turn on or off the key switches that are indicated by red at the bottom. And by default, we have purge unused samples turned on. And this is a huge resource saver in terms of how much memory you're using. And if we just take a quick look, this entire patch is coming in at 420 megabytes. So not even a gig. And then finally, if we look at the bottom, we see that we also have our effects rack. It starts off pretty empty with just the reverb turned off, but we have a few different presets that we can choose from. And if we want to create our own rack, we can pick individual effects from this drop-down menu here. So let's just take a look at the different categories of sounds. First, under this orchestral category, we have Hyperion strings, we have Olympus choir, Mercury boy choir, and Hyperion brass. And a lot of these sounds are going to be really like sustain patches to get you sketching out chord progressions quickly. So something to keep in mind when you're using these patches, like right now, the dark blue keys indicate the range of the ensemble. And then the light blue keys that we see on the outsides are usable. They can be played, but they're not too realistic for actual players. So in this case, you can actually choose to turn off that like exterior range. And then like with most other sample libraries, the red keys are the key switches. These follow the same sounds as our drop down menu. So let's try out some others in this orchestral category. We have Olympus Choir. And then something that I actually saw Craig Peters do in his walkthrough video is if you increase that attack a little bit, it's gonna give the choir a little bit more realism. That way it's not so abrupt when you press the keys. And then let's just play some things out of the actual range so you can hear how it does become a little bit unrealistic. So let's try something up here. Definitely sounds much more like an effect. Whereas if you play in the range, a bit more realistic. We have Mercury Boy Choir. Really cool. And then Hyperion Brass. Oh, you can really create some heavy, heavy brass low end pads there. And then if we switch on over to vocals, we'll see that we have a vocal ensemble, a bass, tenor 1 and 2, alto 1 and 2, soprano, and then a boy soprano. So this is vocal ensemble. It's a very close up sound. If we go through the bass, the tenor 1, alto 1, and then the soprano, these are all going to be from the Voices of Rapture library. So this is the soprano. Something you might want to do to give this a bit more realism, maybe turn on the reverb. And that really takes that dry sound that we have and gives it some breathing room, gives it some life. And then something else that you can do, if we go back to this little gear icon and go to legato, this area lets us adjust how we want the legato and the portamento to sound. So if we were to turn this on, now when we switch between notes, it has a little bit more of a flow thanks to that legato. And we can, of course, change if we want it to be a quick legato or if we really want to make it long. It's a little bit unrealistic there because you can kind of hear the two notes at the same time. So somewhere in the middle, you'll get much more of a realistic legato. And then same with portamento. So definitely play around with this, but I think especially with your choirs and your vocals, having this turned on with maybe a bit of reverb, you're going to get a totally new sound that's going to work for your choirs. And then if we actually look at tenor 2 and alto 2, those are going to be two different libraries altogether. So tenor 2 is from the Voices of Gaia. And alto 2 is the Voices of Wind. The boys soprano is actually from the Mercury Boys Choir as well. Next up, let's move on to our keys. Here we'll see that we have a grand piano, the pipe organ, electric organ, and the pump organ. This is the pipe organ. Then we have the electric organ. And the pump organ. And these are all just handpicked selections from other Soundiron libraries. And now let's take a look at the list of solo instruments. And this is where I'm just blown away by how much is in this one library. So we have like an alto glockenspiel, we have circle bells, we have concert harp, harp guitar, kalimba, music box, steel tones, twine bass, violin, sustain, staccato, and pizzicato, water harps, whale drum, wooden flutes. We have so much at our disposal here. And now something that I do suggest, because there's so many instruments to choose from and their ranges are really all over the place, I would go into the settings tab and I would turn off the key switches just so that we don't accidentally switch instruments in the middle of playing. So alto Glock. Let's try maybe the concert harp. could try maybe the music box. The struck grand. We also have trumpet sustains. And we also have a few different violin patches. And I really do love that we have these solo trumpet and violin patches. Layering them with your brass or string ensembles could just give your sound a bit more definition. Let's also just check out the wooden flute. And the last category of these layers is the percussion. And we'll see that we have all percussion, right? Triangle, finger cymbals, epic bass, epic tom, snare drum, crash cymbal. And so again, it is just crazy how much is all within this one patch, this one NKI. This all percussion is just kind of like your percussive kit. It's going to have a few different sounds. Let's try out maybe triangle. And so something to keep in mind when we see maybe this individual highlighted key. Everything else that's a darker blue is going to be either a pitch shifted or time stretch version of that one key. Bamboo poles. Maybe the snare drum. And this is going to be a sample of the Apocalypse Percussion Elements snare drum. Very thin sound up here. Let's try epic bass ensemble. Very distorted sound down there. So if we were to go to the ambisynth area, we're now moving away from more orchestral or solo instruments from the layers, and now we're going to get synths and sound design and just a bunch of effects and tones. So ambient tones, for example, is going to be a huge kit of pre-selected sounds. The thing is, these are all going to be very random sounds. It's a kit, so there's not going to be rhyme or reason in terms of the layout. So let's just say that you do find a sound that you really like, but you don't want to just repeat it over and over. You can actually click this little note shift icon, press the key or the sound that you like. Now you have an entire keyboard's worth of pitch shifted and time stretch versions of that one effect that you picked. And then you can leave, and let's do it again with another sound. Let's try that one. We'll go here, press the key. We see that this dark red is the original key that we pressed, but now and then we go back to our kit view here. And this is all just under ambient tones, but there's ambient textures, FX boomers, reveals, stingers, environment. So we have a few different things to choose from. On top of sound design, we're also going to have sub-synth sustains and sub-synth staccatos. And these two categories are actually going to be very similar to one another. We're going to get all the same types of sound waves, but one is obviously going to be sustained and one is going to be a short staccato. So let's go back to sustain and just see the regular sine wave. Versus the staccato. Let's try sustain, sine, warm 2. Saw hard. Triangle. White noise. And brown noise. And what else? Maybe square hard. Let's try a few of those with just staccato. So maybe go back to triangle, saw, and maybe white noise. Sounds very percussive. Now remember, everything that we've just gone through is available in one NKI patch. But this library is going to come with one more, and it's the Core Micro Phrases NKI. On the surface, it looks very similar to what we're already used to. But our drop-down menu is going to be all vocal phrases or wooden flute phrases. And then each articulation is just going to be a different set of beats per minute. Everything that we see in these two menus are going to be available as key switches down below. And then if you want to remove the key switches altogether, just tidy it up with this little broom icon. Our knob controls are pretty much going to be the same with a few differences like this legato knob as well as the stretch knob. Now, if we go to the settings, the sequencer is going to be our biggest change from before. At the top here, we're going to see the audio waveforms of each individual phrase, all with a start and end point. Then we have the step sequencer itself. It's going to range from C1 to G1. And if you look closely, these are all going to be connected to the blue keys down at the bottom. But of course, you can assign the steps however you like within the sequencer. So each blue key is going to be an individual phrase. And those cycle through C1 to G1. But the pink key, this single pink key, is going to be what cycles them through in the sequencer. Over here where it says current step, it's going to show you which number step you're on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the steps on the right show you the total number of steps included in this sequence. So there are a total of 8. You can also set the direction to forward, backward, random, or knob follow. And then each forward and backward is going to have a one shot, loop, and step. One shot is going to let you cycle through all of the steps in this sequence once. So let's say we're already here. We press the trigger, and then it stops. If we go to loop, this will loop through all 8 phrases and then start again. So let's go towards our 7th step. And then it starts again. And then the step will only loop through the phrase once, so just the one. And then it ends. You can also determine where you want the phrase to start and stop by moving these little indicators on the sides, or you can just use the knobs here at the bottom. And finally, the green keys at the bottom indicate the pitch of the phrase. So the blue phrases will remain the same, but the green keys adjust how they sound. And then we can also bring it down. And that was all just one phrase. We could go up. There's so much to tweak and play with here. We can increase or decrease the number of steps. We can also change which set we want to use. So now we have a totally different set of sounds and phrases. We could go to set 3. And this is all just with the bass. We have tenor 1, tenor 2, tenor 3, altos 1, 2, and 3, soprano, and wooden flute. And then we can, of course, change the pitch. There's really so much that you can do just within the phrases patch itself. I just can't get over how much Soundiron has fit into this one library. This is of course going to be perfect for new composers, seasoned musicians, and really anyone in between. But again, it's really designed for those that need to get creative sketching done quickly. Core Micro gives you a collection of so many basic tools to help you start writing. And it's all within the one lightweight patch that's less than a gig of RAM. Thank you again to Craig and everyone over at Soundiron for sending over a copy. I am completely blown away by this library. And if you want Core Micro for yourself, make sure you check it out using my link down below. You can save an additional 5% off your entire Soundiron purchase by using my discount code RRMusic. And if you want a full walkthrough of one of the libraries actually featured in Core Micro, then definitely check out my Hyperion Strings Elements review video. I'll see you over there, and as always, happy composing.